So who's the most dangerous and the most feared gang in the New York State Department of Corrections, New York State Prison System? The Bloods, the Crips, the Latin Kings, the Trinitarios? None of the above. It might surprise you. Alright, so let's get into it. As we spoke about in the intro of this video, who is the biggest gang in the New York State Department of Corrections? And this isn't the prison system, but it does apply as well in the county jails. And this isn't just in New York, but this applies in a lot of other states as well. One might think that you know, it might be a well-common gang such as, say, the Bloods, the Crips, MS-13, Aryan Brotherhood, things of these natures. And when I speak of who is the biggest, that means more so who's the most intimidating, who has the most power, who is the most violent, dangerous, who has the most influence over other prisoners. You know, factor in things such as intimidation, control, you know, moves they can have done. And when I say moves they can have done, you know, their influence they can get a lot of things done with their influence because they're known. A lot of big gangs in the prison system are known for what they can have done. For instance, let's say hypothetically I'm part of a big gang. I won't name any specifically. And someone moves into my cell it's a double, you know, let's say hypothetically it's a double bunk cell. I don't want them in there. But I'm a known active gang member. I'm not really, but this is just for the sake of a hypothetical situation. I always try to remain neutral whenever, you know, or not all tried. I always was neutral. I didn't want to be involved in that. So, say it's known that I'm active, I'm part of a big gang, and that gang has a reputation for being violent and has a lot of influence and power. Someone moves into my cell I don't like. This is just a situation or a scenario. If I didn't like that individual, it wouldn't take much to have him leave the cell or pressure him to leave, because if he did not, there could be consequences behind that. You know what I mean? So a lot of things can be, they can have a lot of things done. A lot of the time they can influence officers to bring in drugs and weapons and all kinds of other things. They just have a huge influence over other prisoners because they can intimidate. But you might not, the biggest gang, so like I said in the intro to this video, isn't who you would think it would be. It's not a lot of those big names. It's not the Aryans. It's not the Bloods, the Crips, da-da-da-da-da. You know, a lot of those gangs say, we run this jail. If you've ever watched a lockup, you know, what's the one show called 60 Days In or Lockup, you know, a lot of these inmates say, we run this MF or we run this house, da-da-da-da-da, you know. The fact of the matter, I'll just go out and say it, the biggest gang especially in the New York State, that I'll speak on that because that's what I know. That's the state I know the best. I have done some time in Kentucky, but the biggest gang, you may have guessed it, the most feared, the most dominant, the one with the most control, is the correctional officers. The boys in blue, and we're not talking about the Crips. We're talking about the correctional officers. They wear light blue button-up shirts is usually the standard correctional officer uniform, with the exception of like sergeants and lieutenants. They usually wear like a white. I think some of them wear gray. I think the lieutenant wears like a gray button-up, and you know he's got his stripes. A sergeant, I believe, has an arrow pointing downward on his shoulder, And I think a lieutenant, don't quote me on this, I think they have 3 lines going across their shoulders, but they always wear a patch. You get they get a patch as they go up the rankings. They start off as a piddly CO. Well, I shouldn't say piddly. Well, I'll just go ahead and get into it. To give you an example, we have an article here. I found online. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. It's from Corrections 1 is the name of the page. In the article, the title of it. So this is just to give you an example. Of some of the things the correctional officers can do. The title of the article is Inmates, man who died in New York prison beaten by COs. CO is just a short term for correctional officers. I'm just going to read the first 3 or 4, just a couple paragraphs. It's a longer article, but I'm just going to get to the meat and potatoes of the article, which is like the first, I think, 4 paragraphs. Okay, so it says Comstock, New York. And Comstock has one of the most notorious maximum security prisons in the state. It's called Great Meadow Correctional Facility. It's maximum security. It's known as definitely one of the most violent and secure facilities. They send a lot of disciplinary guys there, and it's just a bad jail. From the correctional officers down to the inmates, that jail has an evil reputation. Guys I know that have been there say that as soon as you walk in there, you get off the draft bus. The draft bus is the bus that takes you when you're in transit from one facility to another. And you come into the draft room. That's usually the first room you enter into once you come off the bus. They unload your bags with your property and stuff. The correctional officers, they set a tone immediately. They are very aggressive. And I've heard guys, in a number of words, the COs will tell them, if you mess around here, this is our house, we will kill you. Like, they have told them they will kill them. And mind you, a lot of a lot of facilities, when I left in 2014, there's not a lot of cameras in them. There are cameras in some facilities, but in New York, you don't see a whole lot of cameras. I know Attica put in a lot just because they had so many complaints of inmates being beaten and killed by correctional officers or beaten to death. But I think they're starting to, from my understanding, especially in a lot of these maximum security prisons, they're starting to install more cameras. But let's see here. Okay, so I got the article. And the reason why they're doing that is they have lawsuits, ongoing lawsuits. If an inmate dies while in custody, sometimes the family can sue, or the lawyer, the family of the inmate that got killed can hire an attorney, and they'll sue the state. Some of these lawsuits have been for thousands, hundred thousands, and even millions of dollars, or over $1 million. So, okay, let's get back. Sorry, I kind of went off track there. So, and this is in October 25th, 2019. The allegations of 4 inmates have been negated by officials as going against ME reports. I think the ME report is like the official investigation report in regards to this particular incident that was written up by staff security at the jail. I'm not sure if the lieutenant writes up the report or who specifically writes it. But anyways, Comstock, New York, Great Meadow Correctional Facility is where this occurs at. Comstock, New York. Inmates at an upstate New York prison are contradicting an official report that a fellow inmate who would soon be eligible to be released on parole after spending 25 years behind bars. So he's probably doing a 25 to life bid. Because once you hit 25, usually you see the parole board. Once you make it to 25 years, that's an assumption on my part. But it sounds like he was doing a life term. Let's see. Inmates at an upstate New York prison are contradicting an official report that a fellow inmate who would soon be eligible to be released on parole after spending 25 years behind bars died of a heart attack in January while being restrained by guards. He died of a heart attack. In a report published by the New York Times on Thursday, 4 inmates at Great Meadow Correctional Facility, a maximum security prison in Comstock, told the paper that they saw John McMillan, 67, brutally beaten by the guards. In written statements obtained by the newspaper, inmates told state investigators that the guards punched, stomped, and kicked McMillan until he stopped moving. The official account said McMillan attacked and resisted the guards, who were only trying to restrain him. The report said body camera footage supports their statements. The footage has not been released. Typical. That sounds about right. A lot of the time you won't ever see or hear about footage, camera footage. And a lot of time they will have body cameras and it'll get lost, or the file on the camera will get corrupted somehow, or something will happen just so by mistake. But anyways, back to the article. In reviewing the body camera footage, there's no indication of any use of batons, no choking of Mr. McMillan, or any other evidence of excessive use of force, the report said. McMillan had a history of assaulting prison staff. McMillan had a history of assaulting prison staff and had been involved in fights with other inmates, officials said. McMillan also suffered anxiety, schizophrenia, epilepsy, and substance abuse, according to the report on his death by Washington County District Attorney's Office. Usually, the boys in blue have each other's back, and even if one's dead wrong, a lot of the time, whether it's a CO or a cop or, a district attorney, they always have each other's back. You hear so many times there will be an officer that was dead wrong that should be held accountable and should oftentimes be arrested for the things they do. But there's this unwritten code and this isn't to say all cops or correction officers are bad. There are good, there are great. I'm not anti-police for the good ones. We need police. The world would be a crazy place if there weren't officers, and there are evil people that unfortunately need to be in prison, There are people that deserve a second chance, that made mistakes, but they're extremely violent and, STX offenders that need to be in there that do horrible things and, what's the old saying? One rotten apple can ruin the bunch, A lot of the time people hate cops because all it takes is a few bad apples to make all the police look bad, So while there are some good cops, there's a lot of bad ones too, unfortunately. And this goes to correctional officers, goes for correctional officers and anyone in the judicial or law enforcement community. But respect to those that do have a level of integrity and are there to protect the community and do it the right way and don't lie and don't do bad things, that they shouldn't be doing. So anyways, back to the report. Thomas Maley, a spokesman for the State Department of Corrections, said the report's conclusions were based on interviews with guards and prisoners, as well as an extensive body camera footage. Any story claiming that John McMillan was beaten by correctional officers before his death would fly in the face of Washington County's medical examiner's findings, as well as the preliminary results of the investigation by the department's Office of Special Investigations, Maley said. Such a baseless assertion would be blatant abdication of the truth. McMillan's family has criticized the official account of his death. His sister, Carolyn Hodge, told the Times Coroner's Office His sister, so this is McMillan's sister, Carolyn Hodge, told the Times that the coroner's office first told them that McMillan had been strangled. I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive them for what they did to my brother, Hodge said. Wow. So, we got 4 inmates, which, of course, they're there in green. Green is the colors that inmates wear in New York State prison. And, when it's green against blue, blue always wins. It's your word against theirs. And your word's nothing. You're a criminal. When you're in there, they look at you as a crook, a criminal, even though a lot of those guys they're people that made a bad decision. While I was there, there are good guys in there. There are good people in the prisons. They've just made mistakes. A lot of them had addiction problems. They might have got caught with a little dope, but I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but there are people that I've met in there, and I feel like I'm a decent human being myself, not to toot my own horn, but I made mistakes, and I try to live a good life now. I still, I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes today. We all do. No one's perfect, but no one deserves, whether this account's true or not, it goes to show, to back up what this video is about. Who is the biggest gang? Who is the most dangerous gang? And you'll hear this. It's the corrections officers. It's the boys in blue in there. And this isn't an uncommon story. There's a lot of facilities such as Green Correctional Facility, and that's a medium. Mediums are generally thought of as less, in New York State anyways, they're thought of as less violent, and they're not as secure. Usually the maxes have big walls. A lot of them look like darn near like a fortress. Some of the old ones, big, huge concrete walls. They're very, very secure, They got shooters and the towers on them. Every medium or max is going to have towers, but the visual of a max stands out way more than a medium. They look way more secure, especially the old school ones. There's some newer ones that look, more modernish and use like 3 layers of fencing and tons of razor wire. There's a few of them like that, 5 Points and Wendy, but they're still very secure. The way they do movement and stuff like that, whenever going to the yard and so forth, the movement's way more controlled. But and they're in cells rather than in dorms. Mediums are usually a dorm setting. But anyways, I went a little off track there. Mediums, Green is a medium. They have a box there. The box is the SHU, Special Housing Unit. And there's been deaths there. And that's generally a youth prison. Green specifically. Like there are grown men there, people in their 30s, anywhere from teens, you can, to go to prison in New York, it's 16 generally, unless you have some crazy homicide or something like that when you were like 15, but generally speaking, it's from teens up till the end of your life, but Green is more of a youth medium, and it's a very wild spot. And a lot of those COs, if you say you get in a fight, a lot of the time, just because you got in a fight to teach you a lesson, they'll take you back into the box or the SHU, especially, the disciplinary segregation area, and they beat the fight. And this is no typical, beating. They will put you in handcuffs, shackle your hands and feet. You can't defend yourself. They'll beat with batons. They'll slam your head against the wall. They'll punch you in the face. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's sad. All because you got in a fight with someone, or you might have been trying to defend yourself. But what makes the correctional officers such a strong gang is their unity. You think, a facility, your average facility probably can hold anywhere from 5,000. These are just rough numbers. I'm not sure. Every facility's got a different inmate population, but roughly anywhere from 500 up to close to 2,000. I think some go up to like 1,800. Some of the bigger facilities, don't quote me on that, but definitely over 1,000. Some facilities can hold. And let's say a facility has 1,000 inmate population, 1,000 inmates. They might at any given time have 100 security staff on at any given time. So that's one officer for every 10 inmates. And it might even be less than that. It might be 80, 70, you know. But what makes them the strongest gang is their unity. They're intimidating, you know, that makes them strong because they're unity, they're very organized, they maintain control. The inmates aren't united like the COs are. Plus, they have good resources, you know, such as weapons if they need them, and so forth. But they're just a force to be reckoned with. And God forbid you ever attack one. They might put you in cuffs in front of everyone so as not to have witnesses, but once you're out of sight, it is a known common thing for them to beat guys. And oftentimes beat guys to death, and a lot of times they'll stage, there's even been instances where they've staged it to make it look like the guy hung himself. You know, there's stories of that. You'll hear that all through the Department of Corrections in New York. But if he hung himself, why is he covered in bruises? Why does he have welts all over his head? You know, you don't get bruises and welts after you know, once you're dead. You know, those things don't happen. Your blood flow stops. What's called a rigor mortis. Once that sets in, your body doesn't bruise and swell. You know, you have to have blood flow for those things to happen. They're finding people that hung themselves covered in welts and bruises, and they're getting reports from people in the cell next door hearing an inmate screaming. They might not have seen it, but they hear boom, bang, bang, bang. Ah, stop. You know, this is very common, and it's unfortunate. But, you know, don't let anyone fool you. You know, you might hear some, like I said, some gangs say, we run this house. No, they don't. They do not. New York is the Corrections Association. Well, there's a New York State Benevolent Correctional, it's New York State Correctional Officer Benevolent Association, I think it's called. But it's almost like a, what do you call that? A union almost for correctional officers. But they got each other's back, and they're not forced to be reckoned with. Some of these boys are huge. You think of inmates being huge. Well, a lot of these officers on steroids, they lift. Some of them are fat slobs, but some of them are jacked. And a lot of them work out. You know, they need to be in shape. If you're working at a prison, there are times where you might have to subdue an inmate, or heck, sometimes if they're swinging. I mean, if an inmate's swinging on you, you can swing back, you know. I mean, you're more so supposed to subdue them, but sometimes you might have to hit them. In some instances, it is justified, but a lot of these COs are monsters, huge, you know, and it's known, you know. I've met correctional officers since I've been out. I've made friends with cops and COs and stuff, and it's pretty common knowledge amongst them that a lot of them do take steroids, you know, and some of them are just naturally strong, but you see some that are just humongous, you know, but they're humongous inmates too. Whenever you're locked up, all day, every day, what do? You sleep, you eat, you work out, you go to your job or schooling or whatever program, vocational you're doing in there. A lot of guys, you know, and you want to be in shape in there because it's a dangerous environment. You want to be able to protect yourself in a position to do your best to defend yourself if something happens, you know. That's what initially got me into working out. You know, it is so I could protect myself. Of course, everyone wants to look good and be fit, but I got serious about working out when I was in Berry Hill Correctional Facility. And another time I'll touch into what led me to getting in trouble. And those, you know, for me it was a burglary when I was 17 and a drug sale charge, or an attempted drug sale charge. But I don't have any weird offenses or anything like that. You know, it was, when I say weird, anything creepy or anything like that. But just stupid stuff that was all based off my addiction, you know, in the past. But but yeah, I guess if you want to take a moral away from this, make good decisions. Try not to go. Try not to do anything that's going to put you in a position to get arrested. or any type of legal trouble, because if you do, your fate's held in the hands of a judge or a district attorney, and even if you had a good lawyer or whatever, sorry guys, keep clearing my throat, but your fate's in their hands. Even with a good lawyer or whatever, you might not have much on your criminal history. Every case is case to case, and there's no guarantee. When your fate's in someone else's hand, they can lock you up. It's up to them, So it's best to make good decisions and be productive. Find out what if you're a young person. I was a lost young person. I didn't know how to, I made bad decisions, and I felt lost when I was younger. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Find something you're good at. Find something you enjoy and develop that. Find a skill, something someone needs. Now, I do professional window cleaning for a living, and I own a small business, and I enjoy that, but I also like working out. If you like working out, see if you can become a personal trainer. If you like to build things with your hands, see if you can get a construction job. If you like computers, maybe you can be a software engineer. Find some value that you can offer. And if you're a young person and you feel like you need some guidance, reach out to someone you trust that's older. Try to find someone. I think it's important for a young man to have guidance from an older man to teach them. If you have a single, a lot of these, I had a single mother, but a lot of young men, they grew up without a mother in their life. And, your mom, while she can love you and nurture you and raise you, she can't teach you how to be a man. So if you're a person without a father, whether he died or he left or whatever, try to find a man that you can learn from and maybe take you under the wing and guide you and teach you some things, someone you trust, but try to find some purpose. I'm a spiritual person. I think it's good to have some type of faith. Try to get into your church. Find something, whatever works for you, to stay out of the streets, to stay out of drugs, to stay out of trouble. Even the Bible says bad association spoils useful habits. I don't want to preach too much to y'all, but it's true. You are who you hang out with. You think about laundry. Here's a good analogy. You think about laundry. If you were to throw a clean white t-shirt into a basket with a t-shirt covered in mud, is the clean going to rub off on the dirty? Unfortunately, that's not how things work. The dirty is going to rub off the clean. Is going to rub off on the clean shirt. Anything that comes in contact with that dirty shirt is going to get dirty itself if it's covered in mud. And a lot of times, if you're a good-hearted person, you might feel like you can save someone, you can help them, Say someone's an addict and you're a recovering addict, you're clean, you feel like you can offer them a hand and try to help them. But more oftentimes than not, they're going to drag you down, so only help people that want to be helped and that are making efforts and trying to improve their life, because you can't save someone that don't want to be saved. Project Pat, he's a rapper. He says, don't save her. She don't want to be saved. There's a song called that. Don't save her, And a lot of these people don't want to be saved, You're not going to be able to help them, unfortunately. But hopefully they can learn over time from their own mistakes. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. And ultimately, the king of the penitentiary, at least in New York State and probably all states, is the correctional staff. They are not a force. They are a force to be reckoned with, and someone you don't want to play with. And if you try getting over on them, they're going to win ultimately. You might get over on them briefly, but they might not get not punish you or get revenge right there on the spot, but they will somehow, some way. They might not feed you. If you're in a cell, they might not give you your food tray. They do stuff like that. They might not slide your tray of food into the cell for 2 days straight. They might not pop your gate for recreation. They might not let you get on the phone. I mean, there's all kinds of things they can do. Pop your gate so you can go take a shower or whatever. They can write tickets on you just out of spite to get back, and a ticket is a disciplinary infraction. They can write these things up just to and make something up. They could say, well, inmate was in his cube, with a knife, and they'll bring in a little shank they made at home and bring it in and put it under your pillow, and you just caught a new charge. You just caught a new charge, all because you wanted to smart mouth the CO or disrespect him. The best thing to do is stay off the radar the best you can. Lay low, mind your own business. Only talk to them if you need to. Say they're handing out mail, go get your mail, and if you need toilet paper from them, ask for toilet paper. Be respectful, but you don't want to befriend them because that's a bad look in there. If you have too much association with the correctional officers, a lot of people think you're a snitch, and you don't want that type of reputation in there that'll follow you. They're there to work and to babysit grown men. So let them do their job and only deal with them the bare minimum. And that's a good way. That's a good way to stay out of their face, The more you're on their radar, the more they're going to watch you. And don't do stupid things in front of them. That can get you in trouble. But God forbid, I'm telling this to someone if they ever do have to go. God forbid you ever have to go to prison. But there might be someone watching this that might be waiting to get sentenced on something. Who knows? I hope no one goes back. It's best to make good decisions and stay out in this free, beautiful world we live in. But, yeah. But, yeah, we're about 30 minutes in here, 31 minutes. I just wanted to leave y'all with that. And, the boys in blue, it ain't the Crips in blue or the red, the Bloods or any of the yellow Latin Kings. It's the boys in blue, and the blue being the correctional officers. They run the show. So I hope y'all enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time. I'm going to keep trying to upload videos at least a few times a week. If you like this, like, subscribe, follow. I'll put my Instagram in the description, so y'all can reach out to me there. And yeah, if anyone sees this that has a prison, genre or fitness or changing your life, motivational type channel, and they want to invite me on, I'd be happy to do that, or invite you on here, and we can, maybe one of us can interview each other. I'm open to all those things, so I love y'all. Make good decisions. Try to be a good person, and, you reap what you sow, the Bible says. Some people call it karma, but if you put out good energy, good things will come back to you, so just try to be a good human, and life will reward you for that. I love y'all. Hope y'all have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Peace.